And I get a big, like almost a big high out of that, out of just like, I took nothing. I took all these pieces and I made it into this thing. And I realized the vision in my head.
What's happening? Thank you so much for joining me here on Hyphenate. I am your host, Randy Randall. This is our show for Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. It's crazy. Happy New Year, everybody. Hope you had a good, fun New Year's. Hope you didn't blow any fingers off or blow anything else up that can't be replaced. I don't even know. I've been away from fireworks for so long, but I know I hear them. They're out there. Southern California, Los Angeles, greater Los Angeles area. The fireworks are alive, and hopefully everybody setting them off is also alive. This is the first week of a new theme-based idea. This is the video game. I don't know. I don't have a quirky, funny, witty title for it. Just video game month on Hyphenate. I am not a video game person, but I'm a father of young children, and video games factor very heavily into their young lives. And so I'm around video games, and I grew up, in the 80s, and I remember when we got our NES. I remember my older brothers had the Atari or Coleco's, and but I don't have a personal thing. I don't know what happened. I don't think I had enough money or enough passion about keeping up with it. And, from 1989 to 1992, I think I discovered Nirvana. I think Nirvana Nevermind happened, and Mario Brothers did not seem as exciting as flannels and ripped jeans and loud guitars and screaming. I think that's sort of where, I turned 12 and Nirvana happened. And video games kind of were for someone else, for me. But that was my experience with video games. And then every once in a while I'd see other people playing. I'm like, oh, cool. I remember that's always a Star Wars nerd. There was a cool Star Wars fighting game that I remember we rented. My cousin Matt and I rented. And just like for the weekend, you could rent video games. And it was fun. It was like a Street Fighter style game where you could be like the classic Star Wars characters. You got like Chewbacca versus Darth Vader in a Street Fighter match. That's probably one of my favorite games later in my life. And then I don't know, maybe some Tetris or some Snake on the early cell phones. And then, I want to get excited about video games. They sound fun. I know they're out there, and I play a lot with my kids. We play, what do we play? Minecraft. I've been Minecraft pilled for it feels like decades now, but at least for the past 10 years, Minecraft has been part of my life. So it's a daily activity I participate in, but I probably wouldn't choose it. And, I don't know. I was going on a good run there. I had a good Minecraft mind going for a while. I got to the nether region. Anyway, doesn't matter. But I thought it would be interesting to talk. It was just started to happen sort of organically. A couple of people I had been interviewing had a life in video games, and I wanted to find out about it. Again, this is me, part of the Randy doesn't know anything, or the Randy learns about something. Just like, November I learned about independent book publishing. This month of January, I'm going to learn about video games. But of course, I'm going to do it in the way that I do it, where I talk to people who have a hyphenated life, a hyphenated career, a hyphenated mindset. So these aren't people who necessarily started off and were mono-minded about, video games is everything. This was something, their video games sort of slotted into their otherwise larger creative endeavors and visions. And so I thought it'd be fun to kick off this month with a childhood friend of mine, Mr. Justin Lancaster. We talk a lot about our childhoods and our dads and growing up, and sort of what his journey was through the arts and through illustration and painting and visual arts that found him with a career in video games, doing background designs and background I don't know what you call it. Design sounds right. Painting, background artistry for a company called Blizzard, and he makes a game called Overwatch. I don't know what these mean. This might be a big deal to some people, I think, or it might be a big deal to everybody else in the world. I think it's cool. It sounds cool. It sounds like it's a gig and it's paying the bills. from my perspective, I think he obviously gets a lot more out of it, and that's sort of what we talk about. And it's rad. That's not to put it down, or it's not to belittle it. It's just not my world. But I have so many weird things in my world that I'm sure are not part of many other people's worlds. The excitement I get about music and microphones and compressors and preamps and plugins and guitars and amps. Finding an old dusty tube amp would, I could ride that high for months. And other people would probably just say that's it's a piece of junk, throw it in the trash. So I get it. Everybody's got their thing. Video games, admittedly are not my thing. However, I know that it's a big part of the world. I mean, I feel like video games are surpassing, or have already surpassed whatever TV show audiences there are, or box office for movies in the theater are nothing compared to what video games do every day. The amount of money video games make is insane. So it's kind of cool. I mean, the No Age has had songs in a couple video games. I think we were in Skate 3. I had to look that up recently. Somebody was telling me, I didn't remember what it was. I knew it was a skateboard game, but that was so long ago now. I've had people tell me like, oh, I grew up playing skate, and heard one of our songs, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Then to me, that was an email came through like, sweet, cool, it sounds good. It was I don't know what it was, probably $2,000 15 years ago. And you want to be in a game? Sure. All right. And so it's fun. It's fun to know that's part of somebody's thing, because I definitely grew up, with skate videos. I remember all the music, from everybody's parts of, in the skate videos that I grew up watching. So I imagine it's probably similar to that. And then we did another cool one. It was like a free Sony game, I think. It was called Drawn to Death. And it was like, if like the characters look like they were drawn from like a 80s like notebook paper or 90s or something, kind of like a kid drew stuff in the margins of his paper, his like notebook, and they all came to life and battled in an arena. I saw it. It looked awesome. I think we had a song in that, and I even met those guys in San Diego. I should follow up. I don't know whatever happened to it. I don't know. Who knows? So many projects, so many things like, hey, I think there was a time when a lot of stuff came our way and it was just like, sure, that sounds fun. I don't know. And then, then you never know. Sometimes people see it. Sometimes people don't. Sometimes it makes a thing, an impact. People remember or they don't. But it's cool. So I know video games are out there. And I'm excited to talk to this eclectic group of people that I think obviously represent, music, or sorry, represent, I was going to say music videos, represent video games in a sort of different way than maybe somebody who's hyper-focused or experienced with video games would be able to tell it. So hopefully this isn't annoying for people who don't know about video games. And for people who do know about video games, hopefully I'm not a complete noob, or maybe I am, and that's fine too. This is how people learn about things. I am open to learning. I'm excited to learn new things, especially here through the podcast. This is a great opportunity. I think I don't mind taking it to sort of see like, oh, cool. How does this work? How does that work? I know a lot of people are like that in their life. So, let's go through to my interview with my old, good childhood friend, Mr. Justin Lancaster. Justin, welcome to Hyphenate. Thanks so much for coming on, man.
Hey man, thanks for having me. It's great to see you. It's been a minute.
Yeah, I know. We were just saying before the mics were rolling. Yeah, we probably haven't seen each other in person or talked in person since high school, and that's going on over 20 years, or just coming up to 20 years.
Let's see, 99, almost 25 years.
25 years, Jesus Christ, let's go so fast. But even in high school, I feel like we didn't even really hang out that much then, too. I was trying to look back on my high school yearbook because my wife just got her high school yearbook out.
Oh,
I was like, let me look at mine. I was like, I don't remember any of these years. They're such a blur.
I mean, I know you and I was just thinking about this the other night. You and I were really, really close for a number of years when we were really little. I'd say probably like preteen era.
It's kind of that fourth, fifth grade. I was new to Vehar. I came in from like a different school, and I think we hit it off pretty early on. And it's kind of around the age where my kids are now. And I think I have a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old, and so I'm reminiscing a lot about that time of my life. And I'm like, I remember I went fishing with my friend Justin. I'd go over to my friend Justin's house all the time. We'd play these games. We'd do this, and then I think I think you've kind of been in my mind, and we follow each other online. And so I was like, we should just talk.
We should catch up.
Yeah, it was a fun. I remember like going over to spending a lot of weekends at your house, and like I remember you had a TurboGrafx 16. I remember
Yes.
that, and we play like Bonk's Adventure all the time. Yeah.
Bonk was great. Slaughterhouse was like the weird Jason one with like the hockey mask guy, but somehow he was the hero. And what was the other one? Kid graphics, or what was it called?
I can't remember that one.
It was a trip. He like would turn into like a little like mecha suited guy. He was like went from like a little kid on one level to then he was like in a full blown like mech suit in the next level. And it was this very, had a giant sword, you know, that kind of like very like anime styled thing.
Those are fun times.
Yeah.
Those are fun.
a simpler time.
Yes, much simpler. Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. Well, yeah, I've been keeping up with you online and stuff. Like, yeah, like I said, I always remember. Yeah, I think our childhoods were really close, and then I think around like junior high, I kind of like hung out with like the Hesher kids and kind of got into like smoking cigarettes down at the park and skateboarding. I think I kind of jumped into this kind of like I'm an edgy teen. I think my adolescent hormones really kicked in, and I grew out my hair and started wearing flannels and skateboarding and stuff. And so I kind of I excelled into whatever the cliches of adolescence were. From middle school into high school. I don't know, what was your experience like that?
That happens, and that's something that I think our kids are kind of similar ages, at least our oldest ones. Like my son is 11, my daughter's 8, but my son just started 6th grade, so I'm telling him early on, I'm like, like you're gonna have your core group of friends, and over time, like you may get new friends and vice versa. You know what I mean? So that's the typical course of things. You just kind of, your childhood is not like fickle is not the word I'm looking for, but it's like that. It's like people are kind of jumping around, and whoever is in your kind of immediate circle is kind of who you're focused on. And sometimes people fall out of that circle and new people come in, and that's just kind of the way it goes. I really kind of had like some core friends from elementary school into high school. I don't know if you remember Jesus Chavez was like, he was one of my, one of the friends that kind of stuck around for a really long time, even after high school. That's cool. And there's a number of others that I've kept in touch with over the years. But yeah, it happens. It's just people move on, interests change, life circumstances happen.
Kaushik lived down the street from you.
He was my next door neighbor.
Right. Okay. Right. Next door. Yeah. Did you keep in touch with him? What happened to?
Mainly on Facebook and stuff. I haven't heard from him in a long time. I follow him and his brother Viv. On Facebook and stuff. They're both doing really, really well. As far as I can tell from social media. But yeah, I had like a couple other high school folks next door that mainly all these people I talk to, I'll see them online. That's how I keep track of all these people.
That's sort of our generation thing. What I mean? It's like, the people that I want to keep in touch with, I feel like I mostly do keep in touch with. And then, the ones that I don't, it's like, I don't really remember. I think Facebook was kind of that weird thing when we're sort of that generation too, where like when Facebook first came up, it's like, oh, this is the time for everybody to come out of the woodwork. The people that you didn't ever think about or never want to talk to again. Like, hey, we're Facebook friends. And like, is that good? Is that bad? Do I have to mute this person? And now,
there's like that. Yeah. There's that like early like adoption phase where you're just excited to be like connecting with all these people. And then over time you're like, I remember why I didn't hang out with these people back in the day. So there's like a culling, and then you're just like, get rid of these people or whatever. But it's good to see like that, what people are up to, see that they're doing okay. I may not talk to them all the time, but just to kind of, you get a glimpse into their lives and you're like, okay, they're doing all right. Like, that makes me happy.
Yeah. Yeah. They didn't die on the side of the road somewhere or something terrible happened.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know that is such a trip. I definitely feel like it's unique to our sort of thing. Like I said, because like high school reunion would have been the thing, and my wife's planning her high school reunion. She's really good at this stuff, and she has like she went to smaller schools up in the Bay Area, so she's really good at keeping in touch with all of her friends from high school and from college, and all these things. And I felt like I was just never good at it. It's like, I don't know, like I'll keep in touch with a couple people, but for the most part, I don't know. I don't really have that, like that warm, fuzzy feeling. We did all the great things. I think I was just going through my own, I think I had my own sort of issues going on through those times. I feel like it was a much more interior time. When I look back on those things, I was kind of battling stuff and just trying to scratch and just stay. I don't know, maybe I looked happy on the outside, but I think I battled a lot of depression and a lot of sort of harder interior times getting through high school and stuff outside of, whatever else, like the going to football games were and this or that or the other thing. My parents were, divorced right after high school, and and I had depression. My older brother passed when I was in 7th grade, and I think kind of from that 7th grade through till 30. I think I just was on a roller coaster of like depression and alcoholism that sort of went really manic and low sides of things. It was like the fact I made it through any of it, not to glorify it or undersell it, but it was a lot of that kind of, when I look back on those times, I was like, oh, there was people in my life, but I was kind of a bad force. I don't know if I was a good friend or if I really like could be there for other people, because I was kind of held up in my head in those ways.
Yeah.
And it was hard to express at that age.
I had a similar, I met my wife in high school. We were high school sweethearts, started dating.
She went to Walnut High School? Oh my God.
Yeah.
What elementary school did she go to?
Class of 2000. She went to Walnut Elementary.
Okay. What's that? I don't even know what that is. Is that?
Yeah.
That was somewhere.
Walnut Elementary is like, it's over off of Lemon. It's on Lemon and Lycoming.
Okay.
Kind of over by where In-N-Out is, over in Diamond Bar.
Okay.
But her and I met, we started dating when I was a junior. She was a sophomore. But that kind of threw a wrench into like all my social stuff. Like, cause I'm started to hang out with her, and I had a falling out with my best friend at the time. And it was just that kind of threw me for a loop. And then I had this strained relationship with my parents, cause high school really wasn't my jam and I wasn't really doing great. So they're always on my case. And, you're trying to figure out who you are as an individual in high school.
Pretty normal stuff. But again, when you're going through it, it's hard. It's,
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's so tough. Super, super tough. Thankfully I had my wife there with me to kind of help me through it all. But yeah, it's like going all through kinds of stuff. And there's a lot of those issues that I've had back then are still prevalent today. I still battle with a lot of anxiety and depression. And thankfully I'm taking care of myself and doing what I need to do. But it was many years of just kind of trying to deal with it all on my own.
Yeah.
And that's not, it's not advisable. It's not great.
Right. Again, not to kind of talk in generalities, but I think there's those sort of, we're sort of the cusp of like Gen X to, like, or elder millennial and that sort of stuff of like, what I mean? We're not really the full Xers but it was pretty close to it, touched on it enough of riding bikes and just staying out with no cell phones till the lamps came on and ride your bikes back and that kind of stuff. But I think there was a certain amount of like rub dirt on it and you'll be fine. Oh, don't worry about it. Pick yourself up. Keep going. When I was I think I need mental help. I think I need some kind of like, I think I'm struggling here. I'm giving out warning signs here. I'm lashing out.
Yeah.
It's not really. Yeah.
Well, like our dads are like, our models for masculinity. And, my dad was a boomer, like your quintessential boomer, very closed book. And I, that was my model for like how to deal with emotional stuff, was just don't talk about it, deal with it. And so I did that for a long time. And then I reached a point right before COVID where I was like, I can't do this on my own anymore. Wow. So I found a really great therapist. I still talk to her. We talk around like once a month, and
that's great.
It's been really good just to like talk to someone, and you don't have to worry about judgment. And not that I ever really worried about that much in the past, but it's good to have someone who can look at all these disparate like things and make the connections that I'm not able to make on my own.
Yeah. Right. And there's something I found over the years too, just that like putting voice to something that's been bouncing around your head for decades, for years, for your whole life. Once it comes out of your mouth in some form, there's some form of magic or healing that just, it's oversimplified. It's not the whole trick, but there's a part of that just gives power to that. Like, wow, I just said something that I've never said. But it felt so familiar. Like, I can't believe I've never told anybody this feeling or this thought or this thing. And just that somehow gives it the light of day and helps to sort of like shine a light on some places. So you're just like, wow, to have that safe space can really just do just the simple fact of that. And then you have somebody who's trained and knows what they're doing and kind of guide you through what to do next with that, so you're not just taking yourself apart and being left out on your own. It's like, but it helps.
Yeah, it definitely helps. And I'm like, trying to be really open with that with my, friends and people I know. And it's like, when I see they're struggling, it's like, hey, if you need someone to talk to, like, I'm here, or I can help you figure out someone to talk to if you want to, but they have to want to do it. That's like the weird spot. It's like, you don't want to be going around being like, well, it helped me, help me so much. You should do it too. It's like, you have to really want to do the work and be willing to do the work. And some folks aren't, and that's fine too.
No, it's a tough one. I got sober when I was 29, and that was a huge thing for me, but again, it was the kind of like when you talk about it's an inside job. You have to want to do it yourself. It was like, that's it. Everyone can tell you you're an alcoholic, but unless you're willing to do the work, if you've hit whatever your bottom is defined for you, you're never going to change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't, I do nobody any good. Walk around calling other people alcoholics. It doesn't help them. Doesn't help me. I'm like, all right, well, but if anybody ever asks like, hey, what do I do? Like, I have some places, I have some numbers, I have some places to go. You can try it. Again, it's up to you. It's your path, but I can tell you what I did, and I'll tell the story. And that's basically, now, what is it? 14 years. I'm going on 14 years.
That's awesome.
And it's, it's all you do is, what was it like? What happened? What's it like now? Well, you just I tell my story. I feel like I owe that to the program or to other people. Like for newcomers who come in, it's like, I was not good. And whoever this person is talking to you now, this is how I got to become this person. What you're feeling. If you think there's something better for you on the other side, just keep coming back. That's all that comes. It comes as cliches,
Yeah.
It's fun.
It takes so much work to hone the skill of being objective about yourself. And it's a constant work in progress. It's not like you do this one thing and it's all solved out. It's like, I'm still to this day, I'll have a reaction or I'll feel a certain way. And rather than just kind of accept that feeling at its face value, it's kind of like, okay, why am I feeling this way? Yeah. What is it about this thing that's making me react in this way? And if you kind of really dig a little bit, you get to the core of it and you're like, well, that's kind of silly. Like what, that's dumb.
I could take this apart real quick. Yeah. This is not a bomb. This is about to go off. This is just a kind of a dumb toy that's spinning around over here. Like, I don't really let this ruin my day or my life or my, marriage.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so tough sometimes too. Cause it's your brain is a powerful thing and it's telling you all the time, you should be nervous or afraid of this thing because, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest part for me is just like dealing with my anxiety is like so much of the unknown and trying to anticipate what's going to happen. It's wasted energy.
Oh, totally. Yeah. But it's so interesting. Yeah. No, the one thing I've work on daily is the shortening the time of when I fuck up to when I say I'm sorry. Like sometimes I can get it down to those really quick, like, I'm sorry. I know I just said that, but here, let me I have a tool, I have a plan in place. I can take that apart. Hold on. What I really meant to say was, and then try to walk it back. And again, it doesn't ever negate what you just said, but if I can shorten that time, my hope is always that I could just come to a place of clarity or better expressing myself so the next time I want to go for the quick, easy explosion or quick and meanness thing to say or the inappropriate thing to say, I can go, you're going to apologize for this. So is that really the word you want to say? Like take 2 more seconds and find the right one, So I try to always keep that in mind because things come out of your mouth so fast. And I think especially with kids, that's the one thing I really take from my own childhood is that you cannot put the toothpaste back in the tube, all of that stuff. You know what I mean? It's just like the things once it leaves your mouth, it doesn't matter how much, I heard this great metaphor, but it was like once someone, pisses in your water, no amount of water you put into it afterwards, there's still always going to have piss in your water. And it'll never go away. You'll still know that there was even once that's all gone, you still remember that there was piss in your water at one point.
Yep.
So again, so that's the kind of thing of I really try my best to really prevent myself before having to say I'm sorry. Just better. Is there a better way to say this? And I'm not perfect at it. I make mistakes all the time.
Oh, I mean, we're human beings. We're gonna make mistakes. There's a whole other level there too when it comes to being a father and how you interact with your kids. And I'm always second guessing. Did I say or do the right thing? What are they feeling? And I'd like to think I've done a pretty good job of being able to sit down and be like, here's you caught dad at a bad moment. Here's why I reacted the way that I did. Let me break it down for you, my thought process. And I kind of open that. And I think that's it's had some benefits and some plus sides, but to the other side, I'm like, are my kids just anxious around me all the time? Cause they're like, dad's got this, hamster wheel in his head that's always going. But I just want to be honest with them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think a lot about it too, where it's I know a lot of things I don't want to do, but it doesn't really put in place the things I do want to do. I don't necessarily have positive action. I know all the negative things I don't want to recreate or the things I don't want to do. So I have a large list of that, and I have to work harder on focusing on the positive, action-oriented things to do. that are
Yeah.
good things, rather than just focusing, being sure I don't do any of the bad stuff. Because I think I find myself sometimes in that sort of like paralyzed, sort of anxious, sort of paralyzed fear of like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I don't want to fuck this up. So I just kind of like deer in the headlights. And that's not good either. Because sometimes it's like, just be a fucking human. Come from your heart. Speak from your heart. Give somebody a hug. Just be there. Be supportive. Don't. Because even in that kind of way of like, do you really not know what to do? Or are you just so scared of making a mistake?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I hadn't
really
thought of it that way. That's probably true. Yeah, there's just, it's, nobody's ever really ready to be a parent. Right. Like, we're all just winging it. We're all just making it up as we go.
Yeah. I've had my dad tell me that. He's like, I did the best I could. And at the time I was, 25 and he was about to pass. And it was really just that thing of like, I think I still resented him. And I was like, well, you did a fucking piss poor job, pal. Like if that was your best, I'd hate to say two words. In my mind, I was still so like resentful. I didn't have a clarity on it and really just, I stand it. I didn't know how to take that. But I look back in hindsight and I understand that's exactly what he meant. He really just did his best, and that's all anybody's can do. And whatever that means, I was treated better than he was. And just like I'm doing to my kids, I'm treating them better than I was. And they're hopefully that'll keep happening. And that's all you can really, that's some form of progress, even if it's not a healing, loving, nice father knows best kind of moment.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's fatherhood. Parenthood is like the hardest / most rewarding thing that you'll ever do. And I tell this to people all the time when I'm talking about my experiences, and my wife, Cecilia, gets nervous. She's like, you can't tell them all these horror stories. And I'm like, I'm being completely honest. Like it is so hard all the time. Like, but I look at my kids and I have these moments where like, I just see them, whether they're in here in my office at home, like just relaxing while I'm working or something, like I just look at them and I have this like, just this huge feeling of gratitude in my heart about like, I'm so glad that they're in my life and I can't imagine not having them here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's wild. What was I going to say? So in high school, it's interesting. So you went kind of to a younger grade. I think I went a few grades ahead, in terms of like when I came in as a freshman, there was a few older kids. I remember Stephen Bishop, his older brother, or Jeff Bishop, his older brother Steve. And I kind of fell in with his group. I think they were all seniors when I was a freshman, and that wasn't good. just on a flat out there. I think there was a lot of drinking and weed and things like that. So I kind of fell into this crew, and I was kind of the younger kid of the younger mascot of the older generation of the, that kind of thing. And just sort of fell into bad behavior, but it was so much fun. I mean, we had a great time, but I think that's really where that, like, drinking came in, where it first started happening, like 14. Like I think back now, like what 14-year-olds look like and the amount of like dumb shit I was doing. But also I'm only, I've done some work and I look back and it's like, I was 2 years or like 1 year out, like with less than 2 years, like a year and a half out from losing a sibling and my family kind of imploding in the way that it did, to then me like, puking out of a car coming home from prom. As a freshman, so it's like going in 8th grade with this terrible thing, and then going into freshman year and finding a group of people that just wanted to party and kind of be blitz out of their mind and black out. It's not rocket science. You could see this kid who's just in pain trying to self-medicate, and I found a group of people who were drinking 40s every night, and I was like, yep, there we go. That was my version of like, this feels good. I don't feel terrible now. So
it's I kind of had like. I kind of had the opposite experience. I feel like instead of finding more people to be around, I think I withdrew a little bit. Had a lot of self-conscious shit going on in high school. It was like, I never really, and this is kind of like a theme throughout most of my life, is I never really felt like I belonged anywhere. And I felt like this from an early age, like being a creative person and being an artist. People always knew me as like, oh, Justin, he's an artist, he draws and stuff. But I never was really around any other people that were like that. Until I was in my late 20s when I went back to decide to go back to school for graphic design. But it was, it was kind of isolating. It's like, I had friends that I hung out with and we did stuff, but like the core of me never had anybody around that was into the same shit. Or, was interested in the same things that I was into. And that was, a big part of it. It was just like, man, I just feel kind of alone, even though I was with my wife at the time or my, then my then girlfriend. And it was just a lot of these feelings of being alone. And I didn't go to parties in high school. I wasn't a partier. I knew everybody. Everybody knew me, but I wasn't like, hey, you know, what are you doing this weekend? Let's go hang out. It wasn't any of that stuff. It was just like, I didn't want to be involved in any of that. It just wasn't really my jam. But again, it kind of fed that isolation machine. It's like, I'm willingly like taking myself out of these situations where I could have maybe made connections and did some things. But yeah, it was like a completely opposite experience.
But kind of having that guiding hand. I mean, it's scary. It's scary. All of those things, you know what I mean? Because even, and it's hard at the time too. You think it's, again, everything's so huge at that age. Like, oh, everyone's like this, everyone's like that. When the you know, you just watch any John Hughes movie, you go, well, the popular kids are alone. They're insecure. They got problems. The jocks, they don't know what they're doing. You know, they're taping people's butts together on the seats, you know, and,
right,
you know, we're all not that different, but at the same time, but you know, it doesn't mean once you go through it, you don't feel it in that kind of way. Yeah. But it's interesting though. I mean, I think this kind of puts into context, and again, I mean, hopefully we're not harping too much on high school years, but I kind of wondered, I was like, what happened? Like, how were we not friends? Especially when you talk about the creative stuff, and I've kind of kept up a little bit with your career and sort of stuff you've done. I was like, because that was the other thing too, is we had comic books, you and I. Yeah. We were like comic book people, and like Predator and Alien and sci-fi stuff, and like all of those things. I think a lot of the roots of like all of those interests for me and my kind of nerddom, those sort of stem from those years. And then I think as time went on, you know, it was like I would have my Star Wars poster up in my room, but I was also, you know, touring, or I was at practice all the time. I was all filled with like, you know, recording gear and things. But it's like I always had to have something Star Wars in the background, because I was like, yes, this is my happy place here. Going back to all these things.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I think it was just life circumstances, man. You know? Like,
right. Yeah.
You know, you mentioned your parents getting divorced. I had no idea. I didn't know that had happened. So I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh no. I mean, you know, it's, you know, how it goes. Yeah. It has nothing to do with me, but yeah, it was one of those moments when, so we graduated May of 99, June of 99. Mm-hmm. And then by December of 99, they were split. And I think it took time to them to figure out, you know, the next steps of things. But basically, it was wild. And I had moved out to go to college, and that like June of 99. And it was wild. Yeah. I was like out living on my own for the first time, and my parents were in different places. And within a year they had sold the house. So my dad moved to Mexico. My mom moved to Hawaii. Wow. And so it was that kind of thing. I'm like 19, somewhere about that. And again, not to be dramatic. I mean, I was an adult-ish. That's, you know, that's what I wanted. I wanted to be independent. I was itching to get out of the house. I wasn't like, I was like trying to hold on to this like dear old mom and dad kind of thing. Like I think they needed to be separated, and our house had become pretty toxic by that point anyway. And I was very ready to go and not be there. And so it was what I wanted, but at the same time, looking back on it, I was like, there was a little bit of nostalgia. Like, man, I wish, you know, that kind of feeling of going back and doing laundry at someone's house, or going back to your roots. I was still scared, you know. I was living in Hollywood, going to USC, and didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything. So I would drive. I found myself that freshman year driving to Mike Urbani's house a lot, and we would just skateboard it. We'd skateboard it in his garage and drink beers and order Papa John's. You know, and just drive around the town. Cause I still missed Walnut. Like I still wanted to be, that's still where my friends were. If I had to make a photocopy, I'd drive back to City of Industries to the Kinko's to make a photocopy, because I didn't know where those things were in Hollywood. Like Hollywood was still scared the shit out of me. I'd rather drive the 30 minutes down the 60 to go do something I knew. You know what I mean? I was like, I don't know. There's probably things closer here, but I'm scared to fucking leave the house. I feel like I'm going to get robbed or get a ticket. I got so many parking tickets.
I didn't move out on my own for the first time until I was 24. It was like right before I got married. I got married at 25. So it was, I lived at home that whole thing. It was, but at the same time, it was like near the tail end of my parents' marriage. They got divorced, or they split up. They split up 2 weeks after we got married.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that was there was some kind of goal. I think my parents had it in mind. I think there was a goal, like get this kid out of the house, get him out of school. I
don't know. I mean, maybe that was, I don't know that was the overarching plan, but that's the way it worked out. And, you know, but it was like, be living at home at 24, and like my parents aren't in the same room together, and it's just like walking on eggshells. And I'm like,
I know that
I need to get out of here, because this is like this, you know, me as someone, I consider myself, you know, very attuned to like the energy in the room. And it was just like, I was just a constant ball of nerves all the time. Yeah. So ended up moving out, and it was like, I don't know where I lived in Fullerton. My wife and I had an apartment. Our first apartment was in Placentia, actually, right on the east side of the 57.
Yep. I know. Yeah.
And, I was like, I don't know where anything is. I lived by myself for the first like month. And then I'm like, I don't know where anything is. I don't know. There's strange noises. And, you know, you're just like, well, I just want to be home where it's safe and everything makes sense. But
that's not there. It's so funny now. Like even I'll drive through Walnut, or I had an uncle that lived forever on Ricci, right over there by, and my aunt still lives there, but I would, for whatever reason, we'd go back through there. And it struck me in that kind of thing, especially, as I went through my 30s and then into my 40s, it was like, all that nostalgia of like, oh, I want to raise my kids where I grew up and this thing. And then I drive through and it's like, you know what? It doesn't exist. That was the thing. That existed 40 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the same town, the same everything. You can live in the same house, but 40 years later, the world is a different place.
Yeah.
They'll never have that same experience. They're not going to make, ramps with their bikes and you know what I mean? Behind the high school or behind the liquorette, because their house is there now. Yeah. And because, you know what I mean? Someone's going to sue you for if they don't have insurance. So you can't, ride your bike on their property. You can't trip over a crack, or now there's gates everywhere. You can't just go skateboarding wherever you want to, so it's just a different world. It just happens.
Man, I was just telling somebody about that dirt bike track behind the liquorette the other day.
Legendary.
Well, you couldn't see it. Nobody knew it was there because it was like on top of this hill and there was an indent, and that was such a cool spot. Now that's all houses now. It's all condos and townhomes.
Yeah, it's great. But but I think I think about it a lot of ways too, of like kind of that Blue Velvet sort of thing of like, it was a very small town, but there was also, fucked up people. And everyone had the secrets, and it was that kind of thing. I think we had a very kind of suburban, boring, relative, to the greater space of the world, drama that was going on. But at the same time, there was still people on drugs. There was still, know what I mean, violence. There was still all kinds of crazy things that happened, in that town. But it's so much of the nostalgia of like Stranger Things and all this stuff. It really takes me back to that our time as being kids and having campouts in the backyard and and running around and stuff. I was like, oh yeah, but it still was fun. We did.
It was fun. Yeah. It's a different spot. It's a totally different spot now. And like the neighborhood where we live, we're in Montclair. And like our neighborhood there's no kids here. So my kids they go to school in Walnut, but we live out here.
Okay.
They don't, all their friends are in Walnut and Diamond Bar, and there's nobody out here. So their kids aren't outside playing. But I tell my son all the time, like, there's no way I'd let you go ride your bike around all day long without knowing where you were. Like he's like, yeah, but that's how you grew up. And I'm like, yeah, but that was dangerous. Like,
yes,
that was so dangerous. I had no business being out by myself all that time, but
oh my God. Well, no, I mean, it's the thing where, yes, it's literally dangerous. I remember, I'd probably getting into 6th grade or even 7th grade. I remember riding from Walnut up through City of Industry through Pointed Hills, like riding to the mall. All along like the Wash, you can go back there by, just behind Valley and then up to, up the whole way. And it was fun, but it was an adventure. It was a stand by me, like kind of adventure. Like we're going really far. We're crossing intersections we're crossing freeways. We're crossing, major intersections, and that's dangerous as fuck.
Dude, we used to go down, follow Lemon Creek from Lemon all the way down to Valley. Yep. And then we'd go follow the water and go into the Wash. Yeah. And we would like walk down through there. Sorry. We would walk down through there, and like some of the offshoots that would go like under the buildings, we'd walk down into there, like walking in the dark. And I'm like, no fucking way would I
slipped and broke your leg or who knows, anything. Yeah. No it's terrible. Caught weird infections, got amoebas or, what I mean? Like worms. Yeah.
It's a wonder. Yeah. It's a wonder I never caught anything down there.
Well, it's wild. Oh, but then I always have the thing though too, is like, but then in 8th grade, I was skating before school and I got hit by a car. Like my head went through the windshield of a car in 8th grade. And again, this is the kind of thing, like we'd wake up early and go skate the church up on Pierre. And I literally got hit and almost died, and that was when I was 13. And then fast forward another 10 years, I was living in Hollywood. I was just finishing up college, and I was by that point, I really got into this bike riding phase of like single speed freewheels and like racer bikes. And I had a bunch of friends who were bike messengers in downtown. And so there was kind of a scene of a bunch of skinny kids with tight jeans on, it was the early aughts. It was the vibe. And then, but anyway, I got hit by a car then too. I was riding my bike around in West Hollywood, and I got hit and broke my neck and had to have brain surgery. Oh, wow. And I was only 22 years old. And so that kind of feeling of like, when I think about it, or even if I were to tell my kids, my wife and I have these conversations about riding bikes and doing these things. And it's like, I was like, yeah, but it's dangerous. Not only is it theoretically dangerous, like I'm lucky to be alive twice. Like there was twice, like I was a kid running around the streets, and I got very, very lucky. You know what I mean? Like this could have easily not been there, and so I think about that kind of stuff. I'm like, no, I don't want my kids riding their bikes around downtown LA at 3 a.m.
No.
Like, you know, no, like I had fun doing that, but I was very dangerous and I got lucky to still be alive.
That's crazy, man. I remember hearing about the 8th grade incident. But I didn't know about the second one. That's crazy, man.
Yeah. It was a different time in my life. Yeah. I had to wear a neck brace for a bunch of years. And so it was funny. I was playing in a band and trying to figure out, like, we had to postpone one tour. We were supposed to leave, you know, like that weekend. And I remember like waking up in a hospital 3 days later and my bandmate coming over and like, I was like, all right, I'm ready for the tour. And he's just looking at me like you're hooked up to machines, like your head's shaved and you're stapled together. Like you just had brain surgery, buddy. You're not going anywhere. But sure enough, you know, 3 months later, once I was up and out of the hospital and walking and we started practicing again and they're like, all right, we booked our first US tour and we went out there and we did it. And I was sleeping on floors in a neck brace. And I was like, I love this. This is the dream. This is the best ever, you know? And I feel like I almost couldn't give up because of that kind of thing. I was like, I'm alive for a reason. I kind of took that direction of it. Again, kind of a form of manic delusion, but I was like, I have to do this. I'm meant to be alive. I'm meant to do something better than just dick around, you know, at a video store or whatever I was working, you know, like I got to do something in my life.
Well, that's a good segue into some, you know, I was going to ask you more about like, you know, cause I remember, as you mentioned, like you and I kind of fell out of touch a long time ago and, especially post high school, didn't really know what was going on. And I remember being at work and I was listening to, Sirius satellite radio. I think I was listening to XMU or something. I forget what the channel was at the time, but I think it was like Jenny Eliscu mentioned you specifically by name.
I love Jenny. Yeah.
And I go, there's no way there's 2 Randy Randalls in this world. So I ran to the internet and I looked up No Age and I'm like, sure enough, fuck man, there's Randy. He did it. He's doing the thing.
know that guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I tracked you down and I reached out to you and I was just like, hey man, glad to see you're doing all right. And you know, it was like so cool, like to see you, like, you know, you followed your passions. I knew you were into music and stuff in high school, and you know, I'm curious, like your experience with, like, what your experiences is with, like with having the drive, like the creative drive or the need to kind of follow that, like to not settle for doing anything that's not like what you're truly passionate about, like what your experience has been with that.
It's crazy. Well, I wanted to say that too. Did I write you back?
I believe so.
I did. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, good. I just want to make sure I was like the end of the story because that was definitely a moment where things were like very heady and swirling around, and there was like I don't know if I was always in a good place. You know, I think was when things were really busy for the band and for me, it was kind of that feeling of like, oh God, I always want to check in, make sure I wasn't a dick. Not that I think I was, but okay, good. Okay. Just because it's honestly, there's just things I don't remember. Like, well, I'll be out with my wife sometimes, or especially early on when we were dating, people would say hi or come up and she's like, do you know that person? And I was like, I have no idea, but I've learned to just say hi to everybody and just say, good to see you instead of nice to meet you. It's good to see you and shake hands. Cause I might've, and especially in the throes of addiction and alcoholism, you know, I mean, I probably spent a lot of time talking to a lot of people and just in full blackout phases.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I mean, it was almost maniacal, I think, in the way of like, sticking to something. Like I said, you know, there was a little bit of like, mania in regards to like surviving the brain surgery and the broken neck coming right off of that. So I was 22 and I'd gone through college but the whole time through college, I really only wanted to play music. And I found a particular sort of like scene in LA where everybody was really like supportive and it's very DIY. And so I was like, okay, this guy I can work with. Cause I think I had crippling like anxiety and self-doubt in that kind of way too, where I would like write songs. I had like shoeboxes full of 4-track, you know, things I just done on my own, but I couldn't figure out what the social thing was to be in a band or how to like get out of my bedroom and in front of people. I was so scared, but also I knew I was obsessed. It was this really, I've had so many terrible, like those conundrums of like I tried to, one year, my second year in college, I was like, I'm just going to drive to Olympia and like, just be in a band or something. I'm just gonna like make this thing happen. I was like I got as far as San Francisco. I was like, I don't have any music. I don't know anybody. I just brought a guitar and like a backpack. And like, I think you need more than that. You need like somebody's phone number. Like I can't just show up on a K Records doorstep with a guitar with no songs and say like, hey, can I be cool now? Like, am I cool? Like I just had no way of doing this. So I had to like, you know, come back with my tail between my legs and sort of figure out what the infrastructure was of like being in a band and how to be social. And that was really hard, I think, in the beginning because I had high ideals of what I wanted the music I played to sound like, but I had a very low skill level. Okay. And this is very common, right, amongst anybody in creative world of like, so I would do one thing that I thought was kind of good, and then I would like sleep on it, come back the next day, and like, this is garbage. It doesn't sound like the Beach Boys. This doesn't sound like Nirvana. This doesn't sound like Sonic Youth. And so I was always like, but I was compelled to keep going. I wanted something to be better, but then I was like, this sucks. And then somewhere in those early 20s, it was a friend. Do you remember Ryan Chavez?
Mm-hmm.
So he had a girlfriend, Christine, who went to another school. I think she was from Chino. And after she dated Ryan for a while, and after Ryan and her broke up, I would still see her at shows. So I was compulsively like going to see live music all the time, especially when I lived out in LA. I was just always go seeing a band or going to something every night of the week. And then I saw her and she's like, oh, you should I remember you were Ryan's friend. Like, you should meet my new boyfriend. And there was this guy that played in a band. He grew up in Pomona. And so he was like, oh yeah, we need a bass player in my band. And I didn't know how to play bass, but at that point I was kind of floundering through college, like being undeclared at USC, like not knowing what I wanted to do, but being obsessed with music. And so anyway, so I jumped in his band and played bass in his band, which I didn't know how to do, but I think that got me over the hump of like playing live. And so we just played live all the time.
I'm turning my do not disturb on.
It's okay.
I had a thing pop up on my phone. Sorry.
But yeah, so that was the kind of thing. And then I just kind of kept at it. And I tried to hang around the cooler kids, because I knew I wasn't cool. But if there was like other people I thought were cool, I could just kind of be the quiet guy in the background. Like I play guitar, but I didn't I'd listen, like, what kind of pants are you guys wearing? I was like wearing like baggy Dickies when that wasn't cool. I think it is cool now, but you know what I mean? It was the kind of thing like, I remember one buddy, like, you should buy like tighter jeans. Like, that's a thing. I'm like, okay. Like, how tight? I remember going to like a vintage store or something and just buying some terrible like tight jeans. I was like, does this work? He's like, that'll work. You'll pass. I'm like, okay. Yeah. But I always felt like an imposter, even as things went better for us. Eventually, it was the kind of fake it till you make it. We just, for myself at least, I feel like I was always just kind of an imposter. And then, but it became almost more of a joke. Like, when I would play a show and nobody would show up, and I'd see somebody later like, oh, hey, how was your show? And I'm like, it was the best show in the world. You should have been there, man. The place went nuts. It was crazy. And they're like, that's not the truth. You know what I mean? But in my mind, I had to start believing this kind of thing of like, what I'm doing is important. I had to almost like con myself into like finding value in it and convincing other people that there was value in what I did, even though I didn't believe it myself. It's like I had to just sort of, if I really wanted it, I would had to be willing to just like beg, borrow, steal, cheat, all of those kind of things that kind of got to that point of like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm just going to start walk the walk and fake it till you make it. And eventually it's like, hey, do you guys want to play this show? And like, that's a real show. That's with like a real band. That's a real thing. And it just snowballed, more or less. That's the that's the idea.
I mean, I think like a big part of it, I think to be, I don't know, to find any sort of success is subjective, right? But to find any sort of, to be successful, quote unquote, in a creative field, you have to be willing to kind of take the opportunities as they come. And I've always been like, I always say this as I've kind of moved through my, my career. It's like anytime an opportunity pops up that is almost too good to be true, it's like, it makes me uncomfortable and I'm anxious about it. But if I don't take it, there's going to be regrets there. So you kind of have to, you really have to put yourself in these like really, really anxious positions to like keep moving forward. So, I mean,
I deserve this. I deserve this. If this is coming to me, I can't, pass it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like, you were able to kind of put yourself in a situation or a number of situations where you were seen, you were there, you were in the right place at the right time. You talked to the right person. And that's like 90% of this whole thing, right? It's just, it is, in a lot of ways it's dumb luck. It's just, yes, we work hard at what we do and there are hours that we put into it, but it really comes down to a lot of the time it's just luck. It's just circumstance.
Yeah, absolutely. So. No, it was all of those things, you know what I mean? But I remember reading an interview with like Buzz from the Melvins, and it was like, like there's a million guitar players that are better than me. He's like, I can go to any Guitar Center and everybody working there is a better guitar player than me, but I'm on tour and I have a record deal and I'm out here doing this. So it's not about talent. It's not a meritocracy. and sometimes that can get you mad, but the other way you look at it, like, it's not a meritocracy. I suck. I can make it. Like most of those, if you think everybody that's successful sucks, well, guess what? You probably suck too. So you should make it. Figure out what it is. If it's not based on being good, it's based on something else. It's based on who you know. Well, then know more people. Get to go out there and shake more hands or whatever that you think that is. Like, it's a funny way of turning those things around from being negative to being like, I just gave myself that feeling of like, I have no other option. That was really my biggest feeling. And the biggest thing I learned also that at a young age was to have a small nut. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with 4 dudes, sometimes 6 dudes. And we all just, we had to pay like less than $100 a month to live there. And we lived like rats, and, we'd get fleas and scabies, and it was pretty gross. But it was also the kind of thing that like, that I could say I was successful if my level of success was low. In that kind of way, you know what I mean? Or that kind of like, it's your own metrics. So if I could pay my rent by making art, if my rent was really low, then I didn't have to make a lot from the art, that kind of stuff. If I wanted to live in a mansion, then no, I would never be a successful person. And still to this day, I don't live in a mansion, so it's that kind of stuff of like, if I had to adjust all those boundaries for myself. But I want to know about your career. So where did you go to college, and how did you get into what you're doing now?
Well, my story is a little bit longer. I know it sounds like you kind of right out. Yeah, you're like right out of high school. You were like into the music scene, going to college. My post high school story is kind of like I drifted around for a while. Tried going to community college, wasn't really into
Mount
it.
Sac?
I went to Mount Sac. Yeah, Mount Sac. When I was growing up, I wanted to be a cartoonist originally. That's what I was really into. Spent so much time just drawing everything I possibly could all the time. But as I got older, I'm like, it's being a cartoonist is kind of hard. Like, you got to draw the same picture over and over again. You got to do all these things. And it was just like, I didn't know how to get to that point, how to get into that field. So I kind of just floundered around for a while. And then I went to, that was around the time that like Jurassic Park and stuff came out. And I was like, computer graphics, I think that's something I really want to get into that, So I went to Mount Sac, and they had like an intro to computer graphics course, computer animation. That's what it was.
Yeah. What was our guidance counselor's name? Mr. Kalanico. Did you? Yeah. Hey, Justin, you should go to you like animation? Mount Sac has got a great animation program. Yeah. He told me the same thing. Like, all right, Randall, what are you looking for? You want like computers and stuff? Yeah, go to Mount Sac. I remember him he was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you're guiding the future. Like, it's down the street. I get a kickback. I get $20 from the kid I recommend.
Like, dude, I couldn't, not to take an aside, but I had the hardest time remembering his name recently, and it came to me out of the blue the other day. Yeah, Mr. Kalanico. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so I go to Mount Sac in my early 20s, and I'm like taking this computer animation class, and I'm sitting in this class with like a mix of people, and they're using these older machines, they're using old software, and I see this like there's like this older couple, they're in their like 40s, and they're in the industry. And they're taking these classes to like stay up on new software. And I remember thinking, I'm like, man, I don't like school, and I don't want to have to keep going back to school to learn shit. So maybe this isn't for me. And it was really hard, and I just didn't have the attention. I kind of wasn't sure. But around that time I got into, I took an interest in, not to like that I was out doing it, but like graffiti art, like murals and things like that. And I remember like, cause I loved the personality and the amount of like originality that some of these bigger like mural artists could like generate on these walls. And that kind of got me into like fine art for a little while. And I wanted to kind of do some things, mixed media stuff. And then I dropped out of junior college and just was like, you know what? I don't have any money. So I got to start working. So I started working full-time jobs and just kind of like trudging through life.
What were you doing?
Let's see. I started off, did some retail stuff for a while, which was soul sucking. And then I moved to, my brother got me a job at it was called DDS Legal Services. It was like a process service company. So like you're dealing with people serving papers and stuff, right?
Yeah. No one's happy to see you.
Yeah, no, I wasn't a process server. I was just kind of like, I was like the handler. So I had a group of process servers to keep track of and all this stuff. And then from there,
you can wear a gun. If you're a process server, you can legally carry a
weapon. Some of these guys, like I worked with some of these guys that were like up in the mountains, like up in Big Bear. And they were like, they tell me these crazy ass stories of people pulling guns on them and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But, I did that for a few years and I wasn't really into that. And then my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, was working at an IP law firm in Orange County in Irvine at the time. And so I moved over there and I was doing docketing for a long time. And then I remember pulling up to the parking garage. I'm in my business casual outfit. I'm like
22, 23.
Yeah. I was in my, I was around like mid 20s. It was right before I got married in 2006. And I was sitting there and I remember I just like sat in my car and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like this is, I hate this. I hate
it's the Office Space moment. Like,
100%.
Yeah.
But I worked in this, it was a really nice building right near John Wayne Airport, but high rise building.
Nice. Yeah. It's a nice part of town.
Had my own office and everything. And I'm like, I don't like this. Like, this is boring. I'm not happy doing this. So I talked with my wife, my fiance at the time, and I'm like, I want to go back to school because I can't imagine doing not creative things for the rest of my life. I just can't do it. So started looking around and I ended up enrolling at Art Institute of California, Orange County, which is like was in Santa Ana. It's not there anymore. That whole organization is defunct.
Oh, God.
But I signed up for a bachelor's program in graphic design. It was a 3-year program, but I was also working full time. So I would go to school at nights, like 3 or 4 days a week for 3.5 years. And just kind of like really just put everything into it. And it was like, just was finally around people who were like me, which was, I mentioned earlier, and this was like not really ever being around people that weren't into the same things. Mm-hmm. This was the first time that like everybody was into the same stuff. And it was like,
you found your weirdos. You found your people.
Yeah. I found my people for sure. And it was like, I loved it. I loved being in school. I loved working and making things with these people and like getting to know some of these teachers who'd worked on really cool things. Like one of my instructors is this guy named Jerry Hampton. And he was like an old school graphic designer / illustrator. And he did like the logo for He-Man and Masters of the Universe.
Huge.
And like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, wow. And just sitting in this class with him and talking shop with him was great. And then, but they drill it into your head at those schools that like, you're going to get out of here. You're not going to make any money. You're probably going to take a major, major pay cut of whatever you're doing. You're probably going to need to like do internships with no pay and all this stuff. And so it's a grim picture they're painting, right?
Yeah.
So we had gotten married right before I went to school in 2007. And I'm telling my wife, I'm like, I'm going to get out of here and I'm probably going to take like a $30,000 a year pay cut, but like, we'll just make it work. We'll figure it out. She was going to school at the time too. She was going to Cal State Fullerton and like, we'll figure it out. We'll make it work. But we had like no money. We didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. We're living in an apartment in Placentia and like literally paycheck to paycheck. And I'm going to school and I'm taking all these student loans. But I graduated in December of 2010. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to keep working my job, but I'm just going to do freelance for a while. Like, I don't know. I'm just going to try to find some freelance work, get my feet wet. And it just so happens that I knew a guy who I'd met through another friend, this guy named Brady, was a self-taught graphic designer. He started working when he was 19. He never went to school. We're in our 20s at the time. And he's like, hey, I know this guy. He's working for a startup. He's looking for a designer. I gave him your name. And I'm like, well, shit, I'm not ready. Like, I don't have he's like,
don't have my degree. Where's my degree? I need a degree to put fonts on a screen.
Yeah. He was just like, I gave him your website. I gave him your name. He's going to call you. And I'm like,
that's amazing.
I go, well, I'll just do this interview just to get experience. I'm not looking to work anywhere, but long story short, interviewed with this company. It was a startup gaming / tech company in Aliso Viejo. And it went really well. And they offered me a job. And not only offered me a job, but offered me like more than I was currently making. Cause it's a startup. They're throwing money around.
It's huge.
Yeah. So I ended up working, and it was a pretty pivotal moment. I was surrounded by amazingly talented people all around. Worked with a great creative director, this guy named Warren Benedetto, who's still a good friend of mine. Another creative director or art director was this guy named John Malcolmus, who's fucking awesome. And another guy named JT DeMartell. He's still in the industry too. Super fucking talented dudes. I had no business being around these guys, but they like taught me the ropes and I learned so much from them. And from there, it was just like one opportunity from the next, like just staying in the gaming industry. I'm still in the gaming industry today. It's been like 12, 13 years.
That's wild. And that's the side of entertainment that's just grows every year. Whereas feature length films, TV, all this stuff, it feels like it's just one bad news after the next. But gaming just keeps doing better and better.
Yeah, it doesn't come without its trials. We've had some layoffs, and during COVID, our industry was the industry to be in because people were just at home. Yeah. They're playing games and they don't have anything else to do. So
in-app purchases or extra purchase, just buy a new.
But then on the other, exactly, and then on the other end of that, when everybody goes back to work, then you have that fall, and there's been some layoffs and stuff, and it's been a little scary. But I can't imagine being in any other industry. It's really fun. The gamers and some of the artists that I work with are crazy talented, and so that's basically the long story.
It's amazing. Do you play the games? Or do you come from that kind of world, or do you have all that? You kept up with the gaming consoles and everything? Okay.
Yeah, I'm mainly a PC gamer these days, but the game that I work on a game called Overwatch, and it's one of my favorite games. And I was a fan before I started working on the game. So
that's cool.
To be able to work on this game that I play every day is pretty huge. Wild. Yeah.
It means that it's a product that you can believe in, that you're not feeling like you're like, I'm dumbing this thing down for somebody and I can't do it. You want to do your best because it's a product that you believe in.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I hold myself to higher standards than anybody else does. So it's like, I want to do the best I can do all the time, but that gets draining after a while. There's, you get a little bit of burnout just because you're putting 150% in all the time.
Yeah.
And that's not sustainable, but I work with a lot of really great people who keep me focused and inspired. So I couldn't ask for anything more.
That's so cool. But yeah, what a circuitous kind of routing, right? Like there's really no way of knowing it. Like, then as you're going through an industry or finding a place, like as an artist, like what does it even mean to be an artist? Like is it from graphic design to then this? And then I know you do some like personal work outside of like the gaming industry too. Like how do you balance that, or how does that look for you?
Yeah, I've been pretty good. Like most of my life is like compartmentalizing areas of my life. So like my work is my work. It's what I do Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. But it's still creative. I'm still pulling from some part of myself that requires that energy, that same pool of energy. But when I'm not doing that, I still do explore a lot of personal work. I can't imagine not doing personal work on the side because it just scratches a different part of the itch, right? It's like a different part of my brain. But I like, I like to learn new things. I like to always add new tools and skills to my toolbox. I don't know. I like the idea of like seeing an image in my head. Like I think very cinematically. I love movies. I love TV. So if I see an image or I think of something or I'm listening to a song that evokes an image in my mind, and I feel inspired by it, I want to be able to realize it. I want to see it. So a lot of my personal work is like doing a lot of photo compositing, or what people call photo bashing. It's just taking like different assets and kind of putting them together, painting them together in Photoshop to make them look like a real thing. And I get a big, like almost a big high out of that, out of just like, I took nothing. I took all these pieces and I made it into this thing, and I realized the vision in my head.
Yeah. From blank canvas to specifically what's in there. I can relate to that just in the sense of like sitting with like an open Pro Tool session. Like, okay, let me start with a drum beat. Let me start with our guitar piece. I have something here. And then, we finish, whatever, however many hours, days, weeks later, like, okay, that's a record. That's a song. That's a thing. Yeah. Like I remember when it wasn't, there was just nothing there. through process of elimination, keep putting a bunch of stuff on, taking stuff off, on, off, and then eventually comes to you have to say you're done.
Yeah, I call the early part of any creative project is I refer to it as stumbling around in the dark.
Yeah.
There's something in there. You don't know where it is. You're looking for the thread or whatever. And then when you find it, when you're like, yes, this is what I was looking for. Even if it's not done, you're for 30% of the way, but you're on the right track. You're headed in the right direction. Yeah. That's such a good feeling. But everything before that is just, oh God, this looks awful. I can't do this. Like, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
But yeah, I love
it's important to
learning
not
new
get
stuff.
discouraged at that point
Yeah.
of the process of the creation process. I always think I have a judgment free zone usually for the first hour or two. I'm just like, hey, all thoughts are valid. I'm spitballing here, and I just kind of layer up as much stuff as I can, and then I feel like a lot of the creative choices come in then in the next round of sort of curation or editing. I'm like, okay, now let me take a break with my ears and come back and just hear this thing and be like, what is it that what needs to be here? Like what's annoying now? Like, okay, I thought that was good, but that just got me to that was step 1 that got me to step 5. So go ahead, take 1 through 4 out. Now we just want step 5, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. If I start getting discouraged, I'll usually just step away. Or I've been able to tell myself like, it's okay to not feel the desire to work on this right now. Like just step away. But if I really into the idea, it becomes really like a hyper-focused situation, and it's all I want to do. And it's all I want to think about. And that's like, that gets a little dangerous, especially when it comes to like being a friend or a husband or a father. Is like, I want to turn the volume down on everything else and just focus on this thing. Yeah. And that's the balancing act, is like just trying to find out how to balance those things, those aspects of my life, and still feel fulfilled by the things that I feel passionate about and I want to work on.
Yeah, I feel like that was a lot of the luxury I didn't know I had as a single, a person with no kids, in my 20s, and it was like if I wanted to just stay in the studio for 16 hours, I could. I didn't have to be anywhere. I didn't have to do anything. I could just do this thing, and and as time goes on, like even I feel very fortunate with my time that I have. But there's also those feelings of like, I got to go pick the kids up from school. Like I always feel this feeling like I work a lot during the day, after I drop the kids off, and then I can work here from the house. Mm-hmm. But then it's this feeling of like, I turn into a pumpkin. I turn into a dad. I get punched in the stomach and have to go buy Happy Meals. It's like, but I really want to be in the studio crafting this this symphony that I have in my head of this whirling soundscape, and it's just like, no. Now my job, I had the time. I had the time to put to that, and now that time's done, and I can pick that back up tomorrow. But nope, I can't think about it. I can't torture myself, because again, it's that feeling too of just like, I'm so fucking lucky. We all need to have the opportunity to be a dad and to be there for him and everything, all that stuff. I'm just like, I'm not going to resent this. This is not their fault. Like I'm doing this to myself, and so now's my time just to wear the dad hat, and I'll come back to it later. I'll be artist later, but now I'm dad.
I mean, I've tried to also like be, less requiring complete isolation. It's like, I tell my, wife and kids, like, if you guys want to come in here and hang out, like either you can draw with me or you can play a game on the floor or whatever. Like, I don't mind. Yeah. I like being in the same room with you, and like, I don't know, it's finding that balancing. Like, I really want to work in this thing, but I also don't want you guys to feel like you can't come and talk to me or jam with me, Yeah.
I'm not a monster holed up in a hole in the basement. Like, I am still dad. I'm just working dad. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm not doing serious work in here. I'm painting pictures in Photoshop. Like, it's not rocket science, it's,
you're not going to mess it up. Yeah. If you ask me a question.
Yeah. But I want my kids too, to like come in and, luckily both of my kids, there's some creativity. There's some, my daughter loves to draw. My son loves to draw. And it's like, come in here and grab an art book and just like look and absorb and draw, it's fulfilling that way. I didn't really have any of that with my, my dad, at least. My mom is a creative person. She likes to do stuff, and she encouraged me to draw and stuff as a kid. And, in fact, I credit one of the games that she used to play with me as like a huge part of why I am the way I am, is that we'd be somewhere like going to an appointment or something, and I used to just sit and talk people's ears off when I was a kid. And I think to get to keep me busy and to keep me from talking too much, she would pull out a piece of paper and a pen and she'd scribble on it, like just a random scribble. She'd say, make a picture out of this. Oh, and so I called it the scribble game. And so I would just like look at it and this abstract scribble, and I'd find a picture in there and I'd finish it, and then we would just do that over and over again. And I do that with my kids now. Like, yeah, it's a great way to like, to get your brain to think outside the box, so to speak, like, or to look at chaos and make sense out of that.
Sort of find your way, find your place in a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And my daughter is crazy fast at it. Like, I gotta like look at it from all the different directions. With her, I make a quick thing and I hand it to her, and no sooner does she put it down on the table, she's already drawing. And I'm like, wow.
Instinct.
Yeah, she's got it.
Oh, that's incredible.
She's got the bug for sure.
Man, that's awesome. Dude, well, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I really appreciate you taking the time to catch up here. I know this was a funny request. I was scratching my chin. I was like, do I send this email? I was like, but there was something about you. You posted a picture of yourself from high school till now.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And I really looked at it and I was like, you know what? I don't know this man. Like we've been good at keeping in touch, and I know you've had some cool art up for sale. And I'm always stoked whenever I can to support a friend's art project or something creative. You know what I mean? Especially if it's like, $20 for a shirt or for stickers or these kind of things. Because I make so much random stuff, and I always feel bad putting it up. I know that feeling of like throwing something like that out into the void of like, I made a thing, but no pressure. Nobody has to look at it. Don't worry about it. And then, so I always put myself in that same shoes of like, fuck yeah, I got $20. I got a PayPal account. It's so easy to support your friends creatively, in those kind of ways.
I appreciate it.
So, and I've also been very fortunate when I've put stuff out, people have reached out and bought records and t-shirts and things. So it's like, if I can, pass it around, it makes the world go around in that kind of way. So but I've really thought about it. I was like, I don't know you. And you don't really know me either. And so I was like, let's try to catch up. That'd be a really fun thing to do. Because like I say, especially when I think a lot about my kids and the time that they're at it, I flash on a lot of the memories that we had as kids growing up. And so I thought I kind of just was like, all right, I'm going to take the risk. Maybe he'll say, yeah, fuck off. Or, but I was like, I don't know. Maybe we'll chat just like this. This has been great. Just getting to kind of hear what happened in life. And, I feel like also, I feel in some ways, I'm sorry I didn't keep up my end of the friendship too through high school. And, those days too, I was like, I'm responsible for that sort of stuff too. And I just want to, issue a formal apology if I was ever
it's all good,
a jerk through those times.
No hard feelings at all, man. Like life happens, we roll with it, but it's been great catching up with you here. And then also just keeping in touch with you over messages and stuff. I definitely, I appreciate you. Yeah, I think like stuff that we talked about when we were growing up was like, I treasure those times. I think about them often.
Yeah, me too.
Especially like camping with my dad and listening to like the Simpsons songs by the campfire.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. And we had like those books of like my teacher's an alien, or there was like those young kid kind of spooky books of things. I forget what it was. There was a lot of like that kind of stuff. I remember reading those books, and I always loved your dad was so cool. And I reflect on that a lot too, because I think about like the time with my dad and stuff. I remember your dad he made like like 12 eggs and like a full pound of bacon every morning. Like I don't think and then I didn't shit that whole weekend. I think I was constipated that whole weekend, but it was great though. It was so fun. I remember just like, this is so great, because we did a lot of like surf camping, but that was like fishing camping, and I'd never done that before, and it was so fun.
Dude, I remember I was telling somebody about one of the camping trips I went on with you guys to San Onofre.
Oh yeah, that's where we always were.
I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I made this up, but I remember there being like a bamboo forest.
Yes, absolutely. There was like right where the showers were, next to the shack. There was like a big old shack, and like Old Man's was the break there. And then, but it was a full bamboo forest that was kind of built up around where the showers were. And it's, it's all just the bamboo grew from the shower water. But it's magical.
Dude, I remember running through there. There were these little trails, and we were playing with some people, and like, dude, those are like real fond memories for me. So I'm really appreciative of that.
Totally. Yeah, man. I spent, probably every weekend from when I was born till when I was 7 years old at San Onofre, and then we still kept going back. That was my dad's favorite break, and he's part of the San Onofre Surf Club. I think it's kind of it was a cool guy thing for a little while. Like, like hipster kind of new surfer guys were going to San Onofre, but I just always remember being like, oh, it's so old, and it's such a pain in the ass to get down there. I don't know if it's
not close.
And it's next to like the nuclear power plant that's like now been decommissioned. It just has tons of like just waste just kind of sitting there on concrete. Like, I'm sure it's fine. Sure, you can go in the water next to the nuclear power plant. Nothing will really happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you're like our dad. Yeah. I know. It's like, I think about my dad's, life and all this stuff. And it's like, from Vietnam to surfing and polluted water, nuclear infested polluted waters, to being a lifelong smoker, to, Cokes, full sugar Cokes and Snicker bars. Like this generation was not going to last. You know what I mean? There was the live fast, die young kind of thing. Yeah. I was just like, wow, okay. I can learn, if anything else, I can learn from them. Just don't smoke. Don't drink. Don't eat a candy bar a day, and don't smoke. That's if nothing else.
I feel you, man. I feel you.
I'll leave it there. Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, take care. Thank you so much. But where can people follow you? I mean, do you want people to keep up with what you're doing, or any plugs? Where do you like?
Yeah, you can. I mean, I have I have some social stuff. I'm on Twitter. It's _by_forever_. Granted, it's some art. It's a lot of like existential dread and random stuff. But
great.
Or you can follow my art stuff when I post it on Instagram. It's Studio 1126 on Instagram. I try to cross post all over the place, but I'm kind of inconsistent. But if you want to keep up with my antics and just you know where to find you, just look me up, and I'll be happy to get some new followers if possible. No pressure.
Awesome. Oh, right. Oh, the one last thing before we leave. What did you think of Alien Romulus?
I loved it, man. I thought the vibes were fantastic. It was like super on point vibes. It was a lot of fun. I don't know what some people weren't into it. I'm like, this was great. What are you talking
all about? Of the bad rehashes and reboots of everything, like I think I take everything with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? Like I was coming in with very low expectations, and it totally blew it away. It was great.
Oh, dude. There's so many cool moments in that. But they just had like the sound design, the set design, everything was just 10 out of 10, just on point. Yeah. And it was great. I really
hit all the things you'd want from a reboot kind of thing, but still keeping it new. And maybe there's a mythology. Maybe they can keep it going. I think that's what was always so fun, is like, where's the narrative going to go next? And I thought all the actors were great. I mean, it was all good, like, young actors, and I don't know. But I think I've also, just seen the series get worse and worse and worse as it went. And then even with Ridley Scott with the Prometheus and the other one he did, it was just like, oh Lord, now what are we doing here? Like, you don't even know what you're doing anymore. Like, and you were the guy who's supposed to do it. You were the one with the plan, and you don't have the plan.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No plans. All right. Well, it's it's just like the engineers. Like they're flawed themselves,
You're too nice. You're too kind.
I know.
All right. Take care, man.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Yeah.
Dude, that was so cool. It was definitely part of my high school reunion, going down the rabbit hole of catching up with old friends and discovering so many new things about people I hadn't kept in touch with all those years. And I don't know. Hopefully this is, I don't know. Hopefully it all makes sense somewhere in the bigger picture of things. But I think it's, I don't know. I think it's a lot of fun, kind of just catching up with people and discovering what happens in life, and how everybody deals with something a little bit different. We're all kind of the same, but all a little bit different. And I love kind of hearing that story and sort of experiencing that. And, and just learning about it. I mean, it is definitely cool. I feel like it definitely unlocks a different part of my brain too. Like, I don't remember, or like it's barely those like weird childhood memories locked back there pre, being 10 years old. Like, all kind of is a big, I don't know, like stew of weird memories and like timelines. Like, oh right, yes, I remember this person. So it was fun. It was great to catch up with Justin, and also learn a little something about video games in the process, right? Why not? This is exciting. I have a couple other rad interviews coming up this month that I think will be really fun and kind of have video game related ties to them. I hope everybody has fun, has had a good time this break between Christmas and New Year's, the nether region. The netherworld of life. We get this 1 week off, or most people do. Not everybody. If you're working, thank you for working. But I know there's a big chunk of people that just like kind of what do we say? It's like airport time. So you like spending a week in an airport, except you get to be at home. That you can drink at 10 in the morning or have coffee at 10 at night. It's all sort of up for grabs. And I think a lot of people probably are doing some memory lane strolling and some belly button gazing and thinking about the times and stuff. So I don't know. This is kind of where I was at with this too. So I thought it was a good interview to come out around this time, and connecting with old friends and remembering things and just hearing what happened, everything. So much time goes by, I've definitely become that age of a person where you're like, whoa, that was how many years ago? What? Okay. Sure. If you say so. It's wild. Well, anyway, another year, another year to add to the pile, another year older, another page of the calendar turns. I don't know. We'll see. 2025. But it certainly will be something. I don't know. We'll find out. You know, it's a lot. I'm sure there's a lot of personal journeys, a lot of political journeys, a lot of world events will happen. I mean, I just imagine cutting back to this a year later and like, oh, that's what you thought was going to happen. Well, you had no idea. It's sort of, I think I have this strange sort of simmering dread of whatever is to come this year. But, you know, nothing you can do but do it. Go through it. All right. Onwards and upwards. 2025. Here we go. Thanks for listening. I will see you on Monday with Aaron Farley. I'm sure he'll have something good to say about all this. He'll figure it out. He's the one I turn to for hope and optimism in these times, in these trying times. All right. Bye.
My wife, Cecilia, gets nervous. She's like, you can't tell them all these horror stories. And I'm like, I'm being completely honest. Like it is so hard all the time.